Hi there, this is Jim the Keys bartender coming to you from Key Largo. It's August 4th. It's a Wednesday. Uh, as you heard previously, yep, we are past the lobster mini season. That's not the mini lobster season. It's our lobster mini season where people had their first shot at grabbing what they think is a tasty morsel, I guess. But I think tastes like a crawdad. But that's neither here nor there. This is a live call-in show. If you'd like to call, and if there's any live listeners, and since it's hard to have live listeners when I don't set a specific time during the week to have people listen. Probably like during drive time, but then again, I wouldn't want to. You know what? I wouldn't want to take a phone call when someone's driving and get in an accident. But the phone number is 407-392-4563. Once again, that phone number is 407-392-4563. Don't call unless you have something to say. And you know what? Luckily, it's not the radio, so most people aren't perpetually angry and trying to crank me. But who knows? Because if you wanted to crank, this would be the best time to do a crank phone call because I haven't taken many before, so that would be really interesting. You can call me up and say something stupid. I've done that before, not that often, but I have called up and probably annoyed some people. I actually annoy people by answering the phone too. Yeah, I'll, you know, prank answering. But I digress. Uh, Once again, the phone number is 407-392-4563. I'll post it in the chat if anybody would like to call. Let's see. I'd like to have that one time. You could be the first caller ever on this show. Um, the first call, I mean, I'm sure there's other people try to call in, but it's 4563. Wow, that's weird. That's the year I was born. That's the president now and the year I was born. For live call in. Yep. And I guess let me put that in. 392-4563. Okay. So I called this show Creepy Old Man. And yeah, that could be me, but yeah, hopefully it isn't. I try to avoid that. Supposedly people that are self-aware don't have that. And you can't really help being creepy. But we will talk about that in a moment. Excuse me one second. I'm drinking club soda, so what, right? Okay. So it is so busy down here. We thought that the lobster mini season would be busy, but it seems like people put off reserving places and came down here for a last hurrah. People that go back to school, obviously you could do school from here, so you don't have to be in person for school. But the schools are opening back up, not necessarily in person, maybe virtual, but and businesses and things like. I mean, it's a weird time for people, and I just want to if you are a regular listener and a regular patron of the Catch Restaurant in Key Largo, where I work, I hate having to be the person with the daddy pants on and tell people, you have to put a mask on every time you get up. But what happens is if I don't do it, then we get fined and there could be some legal repercussions to staying open. If the let's say the county or the state feels we're not adhering to temporary code. I don't know what you call it. You can argue all you want whether we're taking away your freedoms, but you can't. You got to wear shoes. You can be refused service for not using, wearing shoes or not pants or being dressed correctly. So, covering up your face, covering up, putting a face mask on to protect other people's. This isn't the show for debating that. There's other ones for that. Uh, I don't like doing it. I wish everyone, you know, shoes are required, and some people we do get every, couple times a year we get people that come in without shoes. So I'm not really surprised with the mask. And I did talk a couple times also about people that girls that came and exposed themselves, exposed their breast, and that shit kind of happens sometimes. But it doesn't happen on a regular basis, and if it doesn't happen on a regular basis, you don't have to be, get in trouble for that. So, I wanted to start with that. Everyone's welcome. It's keys. Bartending's very different nowadays since bars, you may have one person here, one person there, depending on, obviously in Florida, straight bars, meaning bars that don't serve food, are closed. And the ones that are open are supposedly observing proper, safe, anti-spread activities, and keeping 6 feet of social distancing, wearing a mask, in some places not using a bar. And as a restaurant, I realize it's not fair to bars. Like, people come in and drink and don't eat. A lot of places, I'm not going to say they do that where we are, but I'm not saying that. Also, we use tables up against the bar, so it just seems a little just different. People aren't looking directly. They want to sit at the bar for some reason. Some people are just more comfortable sitting at the bar, with their elbows on there. But we just have to observe that, and it kind of they kind of make it. I think they start thinking, hey, you really like this. You don't like having me at your bar. You wanted me to stay further away. You don't like that'll be the creepy thing. There have been creepy people that come in. I wish they weren't there, and I hate to be judgmental, but some people have that creep factor, and we're going to talk about that later, like I said. And if you want to talk about it, that's wonderful. But if you want to comment, the phone number is 407-392-4563. And just to piss you off, if you just happen to have a couple people that support him, if you saw the Axios interview, the full interview of the president, the British guy, he was incredible. There was at one point where he was talking about the amount of deaths from COVID, and Trump was saying that, oh yeah, we're one of the lowest, and the guy's looking at him and says, we are not the lowest, we're the highest, we're multiple times higher. And Trump was trying to say that it was deaths per confirmed infection. And it was the argument over, Trump was trying to say that there's more cases because there's more testing, which, there's more cases because there's more people spreading. It's more widespread. The places in Europe, they would, and the Far East, and all those places been having a success, and they showed that in South Korea they had something like 300 and something total deaths from COVID-19. 300 and let's say 350 total deaths since the inception. Not 350 deaths a day, 350 total, and that's from practicing all the suggestions of social distancing, masking up, proper hand hygiene, and doing contact tracing for people that were infected, so they can find out the people and isolate them, and did a strict quarantine and things like that. So they're 350 for a country of 51 million, which is approximately, let's say, we're 6.5 times bigger. So you take that, do the math, 6.5 times 350, that works out to be about 2,100 people. 2,100 people. We do that this week. We're doing that in 2 days. In 2 days, we're adding that in 2 days, and we're also right now we're at about 450. Do the thing about a good 80. Well, no, I mean 350 times 100 would be 30. So, gosh, it's on the order of magnitude. It's around, well, it's approximately 500 times more. 500 times more. That is a lot. So the president was insisting, pulling out graphs. He was showing it, and he says, "That's from total amount of infections, Mr. President." Blah blah blah, and stopping him. He kept on stopping him and explaining how that would happen. It was kind of an embarrassment, and I don't even know why Trump. It was nice that he agreed to do it, but that's the one nice thing. He agreed to do it because, man, this guy did his homework, and it wasn't gotcha journalism. It was just the way it was. So moving on from there, it's funny. Anytime an actor says something about the 45, people will come out and say, well, what they should just stick to acting or stick to sports, or not get involved in politics. But whenever Trump decides he wants some celebrities, they roll out of all, they bring in speakers. I have to say that if there is a quotient that would apply to star power, and let's say it went from 1 to 100, and comparatively, so if you think about the people that support him, it's people like Ted Nugent, Kid Rock, Kanye West, Kim Kardashian, Scott Baio. That was Chachi from Johnny Loves from Happy Days. Roseanne Barr, Dean Cain, Stephen Baldwin, Alec Baldwin's brother. Robert Davi. Robert Davi was the FBI agent in Die Hard, the white guy who got blown up in the helicopter with his black partner. And he was also the Central American drug lord in License to Kill. And Kirstie Alley. And there's other ones, there's other ones out there. And they fall by the way. There's some of them that did, and now they don't. But he gets he's so enamored with his celebrities that he had a picture taken around the Oval Office with his main celebrity supporters. They remember in the Oval Office, they have the picture. It's Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, I think, Ted Nugent, Kid Rock, some other chick, and I don't know. It could have been Kirstie Alley. I mean, and I'm not body shaming. I'm not saying anything about her going back. Ted Nugent, he was like back in the 70s. He was really popular with young men from the ages of 13 and 17 for his stupid lyrics, and then he got kind of nutty and stuff like that. So, really not much of a rock legend. Now, the current list of the opposition supporters, Biden, is we have people like John Legend, Barbara Streisand, Jennifer Hudson, Jay Leno, Mark That's Luke Skywalker. Larry David from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Tom Hanks. Uh, Lin Manuel Miranda. Steven Spielberg. Ben Affleck. Cardi B. Alec Baldwin. The famous one, the better actor. Um, Jimmy Buffett, which for the Keys people, I didn't know Jimmy Buffett. We have a lot of people down here to support the president, but Jimmy Buffett, who, they'll yell he's not a local, but George Clooney, which in every layer of thing, they got someone that's significantly more famous than theirs. We have John Legend for Ted Nugent. We have everyone else for Kim Kardashian, which she's just famous for nothing. Scott Baio, the least, is Scott Baio and Dean Cain and Steve Baldwin. Let me go down the list. Leonardo DiCaprio, Dustin Hoffman, Jennifer Hudson. Jesus. Oh, I said that twice. Samuel L. Jackson. Sure. Megan McCann. I couldn't remember. McCain. I'm surprised. Julianne Moore, Willie Nelson. Rosie O'Donnell and Roseanne Barr kind of offset each other. Yeah, they're pretty much similarly abusive and thing. Howard Stern. So our Howard Stern trumps your Rush Limbaugh and Jon Stewart. And Jon Stewart tops all the other guys too. There's other retired journalists and stuff like that. Dan Rather and stuff. And obviously they don't. The people that support Trump will say, well, they don't really represent us. No, they don't represent you because they're much smarter. And whenever you see their events, they bring, Chuck Woolery. Chuck Woolery is one of it. Chuck Woolery, for the people that don't know who Chuck Woolery is, if you listen to podcasts, you probably don't know who Chuck Woolery is for the most part. There's smaller groups of people there. But he was a hack game show host, much like the president. At certain times, Chuck Woolery is just this plastic-looking big white guy with his comb-back hair. I've been accused of that before too. Comb-back, hairsprayed, set in that direction. He did. He did the beginnings of the gotcha shows, I think, or whatever. He made it a couple cop shows, talk shows, but it was mainly game shows, and that's who they have. And when they roll them out, Anthony Sabato Jr., I think he's famous for some TV show in the 80s or 90s. I'm not familiar with it, and maybe, God, there's some other actors. John Voight. Okay, there you go. John Voight was at one time. I don't even know if he's around anymore, but that's what you get. And I only gave like a half a list right here. Got Snoop Dogg, Dustin Hoffman, Stephen King, George R.R. Martin, Julianne Moore, Willie Nelson, Rosie O'Donnell, Howard Stern. Okay. You know what? They're people you want to hang out with. If someone's called me today and said, hey, listen, you want to hang out with Ted Nugent, Kid Rock? Not that they would. I realize I'm not that big a deal. Not that they would call me up and ask me to hang out with Robert Davi. Stephen Baldwin, I would worry about. I would think he would probably try to take something. He would try to rob me. If not of my money, probably at my last of common sense. He would remove that from me. But I wouldn't trust Stephen Baldwin. But if you rolled out those people, it's amazing that in this big country, that's the person. These people are the ones they roll out as celebrity guests. And he makes a big deal about them. No, the big star is Scott Baio. I don't think they have Scott Baio anymore because they were trying to shop it around for a while, trying to get other people to do it. And, they hired up one of the fangirls to be his press secretary, whatever her name is, Tommy Logren or something like that. Maybe that's not her name, but I know just a fan. And so if you brought them all out, rolled them out they sound like the kind of people you would have at a Chicago chlamydia awareness telethon during the Labor Day weekend. Going up against Jerry's kids, and they roll out Chachi, Kim Kardashian, Dean Cain, Stephen Baldwin, which, I don't know what they would do. Recite right-wing poetry? That would be quite interesting. But I digress. That is, I know we recommend some things when you hear stars do that. It says, I don't really listen to them. Well, that's fine. But when they roll out their big stars, that's their big stars. And on the 1 to 100 quotient, they're probably like a 22, something like that. Just, you could have got your local baseball game announcer probably has a little more star power than a lot of these guys. Is Stephen who? Kirsty who? So, that's pretty much what I have to say about that. And if you'd like to talk, we're going to be coming up again. I didn't get any phone calls. I know this is it, but I'm going to keep on doing this until I start getting calls, and I will cultivate that. But the number is 407-392-4563. And I know I'm pretty sure the lines are open. I'm looking for just my first call. I guess if I do in the future set up a standard time, which maybe I should do 1 o'clock on a Tuesday. If people will say, well, I'm not available, it doesn't matter. It's a podcast. You can call back. Or maybe do it during your lunchtime. You could do that. Hopefully, I don't think you would choke on anything I would say, because I haven't said anything too funny recently. But let's get moving on. It's time to move on to the subject. You can't just stick on talking politics all the time, Jim. And that would be The Creepy Old Man. That's the title of the show. And I'll reiterate again, it does not refer to me, though some people may have said that before, but that's not necessary. It's a perception. It's not black and white. But I'm going to tell you a story. When I was 40, I was with my current wife. We were down with her brother and my sister-in-law down at the weekend down the Jersey Shore. And it was the Irish weekend. And it was supposed to be a cultural weekend for Irish people. What it normally is, and most of the people down there, they'll have some places where they have some Irish dancers and stuff like that. Kids show up and then watch their parents get drunk, because the other thing for Irish weekend, it's just a drinking thing down the shore. It's for the bars in Wildwood. They have firemen's weekend, they may have policemen's weekend, they have Irish weekend, they have motorcycle bike weekend, and all those things. So I think it was on we had Saturday night. We were, I think it was Saturday night, Sunday morning, around 1, which is very late for Irish weekend, because on Irish weekend it is not frowned upon to start drinking when you wake up. So when you go out at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's not unusual to see a lot of people drinking. And the Irish weekend is the weekend where people fulfill those stereotypes. What they say really offends them when they talk about Irish people being drunk all the time, because on Irish weekend, Irish people are drunk all the time. And my last name's Haran. If you don't know, that's an Irish surname. So there you go. So it's, let's say 1 o'clock in the morning on the Saturday night, early Sunday morning. I'm smoking a cigarette on the balcony, and 2 young women in their early 30s are kind of stumbling down the street. Now, they're having a very difficult time moving forward. They don't even master the 2 steps forwards, 1 step sideways, 3 steps back. They're like bumping into things and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, holy shit. And there was one slightly less drunk than the other one. They were both It was incredible. I think I ended up bringing them to, if I remember correctly, I just remember the end of the story. So my wife's there, so there's no creepiness that happened, at least on my part. So we took them over to, we brought them over to the balcony where we were. I brought them, walked downstairs, got them, sat them down, asked them where they're from, where they're going. Are they staying down here? And they say yes, yes. So someone we got someone intelligible, and it turned out one of them had uh, remembered the name of the hotel or whatever, and it seemed to be about uh, a block away. So uh, I decided to walk them back. I don't know how I started walking them. I think I may have gotten like 3/4 of the way, and then this girl and this guy comes over and recognizes two girls, and they're in their 20s and stuff like that. So, oh yeah, they belong here. Oh, they got totally shit faced in there. So I'm stumbling back. I'm bringing them back to this motel, and there's this decent amount of people, like 12 people. They're still partying and drinking and stuff like that. And but what's really sticking out is this guy who was anywhere from 10 to 15 years older than me. He looked it. I remember to this day, he had gold rimmed glasses, clean shaven face. His top of his head was bald. His hair was a little longer on the sides. And he's sitting there, and he has a girl in her 20s on his lap. I'm hoping she was in her 20s. It looked like, but they were surrounded by people, friends, and I don't think it was the girl's father because he had his hand up in her shirt, feeling her up, and I was totally creeped out, totally creeped out, and uh, I wasn't. I'm in the place. The girl looked like she was enjoying it or something like that. She looked like she could be lit. I hope she was, but it appeared to be consensual. I was coming to someone else's party, making sure that people were there, and I just turned around and I go, man, I do not like the vibe here, and I turned around. So I just saw the guy with the girl in his lap. I just saw creep, and that was the first thing I did when I went back to the hotel room, and I talked to my family at the time, and I told them that was the creepiest behavior I've ever seen. And the guy had it. I mean, he had the kind of clothes on, the kind of clothes that weren't fitting for a guy in his 50s, kind of like younger people's clothes. So the whole thing didn't make any sense. And a lot of times you think like the creepy old man thing, it's the difference in age. Difference in age. I guess after a while you realize that they're guys that have um, the old man superpower, and most old guys, not necessarily this one that's speaking right now, is financial security. Financial security. They're well off and they're willing to spend money. And I know that can go for a woman, but for guys you have the sugar daddy complex, and I realize that is a business decision that women make, and men make too. I think I do see men make that decision down here, where I am from. We have our share of guys in Miami to come and hang out with older women. So I'm not just talking. I mean, that's pretty. It's creepy that you're using your money to do that, and it's creepy that you don't really care what the person thinks about you because they're just doing it. I mean, if they're coming together, coming down, you're offering money, they're doing it for the money. There are circumstances where they do maybe legitimately have feelings for that person, but generally it is what it is. But I'm talking a creepy one where people just there were scientific studies they did in um, sociological experiments or it's a psychological experiment. I was just reading it up on it, and what they did is they showed a two sets of pictures on trustworthiness versus creep factor kind of thing. And they had one list of people that was Nobel laureates and one group of pictures of OldMan who were listed on America's Most Wanted. And what through the test, they said if they recognize anybody, then they would be excluded from the study, or that person would be excluded from the study. But I think they said that if they realize that's the person they saw in America's Most Wanted, they're going to think some of them are, and they're going to have a higher percentage. So they wanted to make sure that they didn't know all these people, so they would exclude all. I guess they make it accurate. They would exclude all the people that recognize anybody. So, and it's a shame no one knew any of the Nobel laureates, and the Nobel laureates got trustworthy maybe 69% of the time, but the guys that are America's Most Wanted got trustworthy 50% of the time. There you go. It's not that radically different. So, I mean, what is the creep factor when you see someone is a creep? Not just an old man creep. I want to break that. There's the creepy guys. The kind of creepy guy that if you went to his house, he would put something in your drink and perhaps lock you away. Who knows? Someone like a Ted Bundy or Bill Cosby. Cosby, Ted Bundy. I guess Bill Cosby is the creepy old man because he was in his 60s and 70s when he was doing this shit, dropping things in people's drinks. Ted Bundy did this when he was younger, and his was more violent. But they were all pretty much they're on the creep scale. You have to put them on the creep scale. But a lot of things on the creep scales have to do with things that are outward, the way their eyes look, how their hygiene is, what kind of clothes they wear, what kind of how are their expressions. What's the pale faces are considered very creepy. Yep, they said really pale faces. What other things? The kind of clothes you're wearing. Skinny people are more prone to being creeps, and so they list them as so the threat detectors. A creepy thing could be just a threat detector for people, unbeknownst. This guy's creeping me out, or this girl's creeping me out. I'm not going to get in a car with them. I'm not going to go to their house. But if they're attractive, the threat detector goes down. Hence, you have someone like Ted Bundy. I mean, they say that during the course of the study, it was noted that it seemed like people that were less attractive and fit some of the descriptors for creepiness, they were more likely to be found guilty and given harsher sentences in courtrooms. Now just think about it. Just think about the people that they had to nail Ted Bundy, the heinousness of his crimes in order to get him. But there were so many other people. I'm not suggesting it. I remember going into court for a DUI ad. And it wasn't necessarily, I didn't have the DUI. I was going to courts because they stopped me. And I was to my own right, to their own rights. It was correct. I was drunk at the time. They did a ROI, released on your own recognizance, ROR or ROI. And ROR, that's it. And I was dressed neat. I wore a shirt, tie. I didn't wear a suit. And I just went in there and, okay, just suspension for a month. Turn your license, go to classes. Yep, that's what they did back then. You didn't have to go to court, and you didn't get points and all that stuff. And you had, if you didn't get in trouble in 2 years, you weren't fined, but it started over again. And if you didn't get in trouble in 7 years, everything's expunged. Or I think everything was expunged at the end of first thing. But either way, I went in there, and I think a lot of times I got, what would you call it? I got uh, away with things I shouldn't because I didn't have the creep. And I think that's the same thing that goes when you go to meet women. I mean, relatively, there could be me and another guy. We may not look any worse than each other, but that guy could be like a little shifty the way he looks at him, kind of weird in it, the way they're acting. And once you creep that out, that creep factor stays in there. I don't. I, on the other hand, I tried not to. Now that I'm 57, luckily I've been in a relationship for over 10 years, so I missed all that creepy stuff there. And yes, I'm not one of those guys. I'm not yeah. I'm not a believer in the adage about half your age plus 7 or plus 8. That's the appropriate lower limit for your companionship. I'm a big believer in it's good to hunt in your own pool. I don't mean hunt in your own pool. That sounds aggressive, but looking for someone with the same experience level. Within a couple of years and things like that. I did date a couple times. I think when I was 44, I came down here. I dated a girl who was 29. Oh my God, 29. That was right under. That was the 20. That was half your age plus 7. She turned 30 earlier than I turned 45. So, yeah, I guess. Well, I guess that changes too. It's the same thing goes for women. You get some women, really attractive women, they just end up dating guys a lot younger if they want to. It's their decision. A lot of professional women don't make the criteria that the other person has to be financially secure because they're financially secure. So all they're looking for is a good time sometimes. So I don't begrudge that to women. But this creepy old man thing always stays around, and we see it down here. I mean, there's guys that come in to the restaurant, and they're in. There's one guy I know in particular, and just the way he talks. And I'm not going to go through any other description other than his greeting. He says things like, "Hey, girlie. Hey, boyo. Come over here, young man." And he says it in an unusual way and stuff like that, which makes it kind of creepy. I don't really understand why someone isn't self-aware enough to. I mean, it seems to purposely go out of its way to be that way. I mean, but it still doesn't make it weird that Anna Nicole Smith was married to a guy that was like, what, 4 times her age when she got married? I don't know how old. And Hugh Hefner, when he, was wearing Depends and stuff like that, always had every year 20, 21, 22, 23, whatever the Playboy models are. That were the Playmates. So, creepiness is more in the eye of the beholder, but people may not be a good judge of it, but there are factors to it, and we should consider that. Maybe you should be more considerate to the idea that just because someone is good looking, that they can't be harmful. But that's all I have to say about that subject. I'd like to thank you for listening. My wife's coming in the door right now. She didn't realize I was going to be podcasting, and she's on the phone herself. But I want to thank you. If you are listening, please take down this number so you know in the future. The phone number is 407-392-4563. And next time we go live, I'll take, hopefully you'll be able to take some of the phone numbers. Phone calls. I don't want to take your phone numbers. That is so fucking creepy. Okay, this is Jim the Keys bartender. Timing out.